speed again on the car. He gave me good...
F1 liveries make the cars look beautiful, but the chassis is what makes the car look intimidating, which is important in F1 cars. And I've never really seen anybody do like a rankings list based off of the chassis. Now I know this has nothing to do with actual, I guess you can say like performance, but by the look, it's cool, you know, you can rate it, you can rank it, why not? So I am ranking how the cars look based off of their chassis. I got cute, meh, not mean or scary, scary and pure intimidation. And obviously the scarier the car, the better it looks when it's from behind. And it doesn't mean necessarily it's fast, but typically they coincide. You saw the Ferrari last and you're like, that is a scary looking car. It was also a fast car that had it. So in cute, I have the Williams and Alpha Tauri. So yeah, I mean, the chassis aren't nothing crazy. They're very basic. This car's behind you, it's like, whatever. Cute looking car ain't gonna catch up to me. I'm not talking speed, I'm talking purely, it's kind of funny that these guys finished 10th and 9th last year. I do think the Williams chassis is a little more kind of basic than the AlphaTauri. It's got a little bit more going for it, you know? But kind of the same type of idea, not really much has changed. Both very cute looking chassis and not much to really speak about it. The car is not very intimidating at all. In meh, so cars that I also don't think really impact that much of the grid and people aren't really that afraid of it when it's coming from the back, and it doesn't look that cool either. The Haas is just a rundown version of the Ferrari in my opinion. It's far and few from what the 2022 was, and even the 2023. It's a very meh car. I mean, honestly, that's how the chassis looks to me. The Alpine is a little bit improved from last year because of the black added onto it, but also the way that they did the gills into it. And the side pods kind of have this nice little angle to it now, before, like it didn't. So I like the chassis a little bit better this year. I think it looks a little bit more intimidating, but the McLaren is the best out of these three. I still think that neither of these cars are really intimidating per se. They're kind of just even lower than mean. They're just kind of meh. They don't really provide that much impact for the rest of the grid on how the chassis look. For not mean or scary, so the middle of the group, you know, I think that the Alfa Romeo sits perfectly in this spot. The chassis is nothing like insane. It's not mean. It's not scary. It's just kind of meh. Like it's a little bit better than meh. Obviously, it's not in that part of the list, but I want to say I like it. I want to say I like it. The chassis is cool, but it looks kind of like every single chassis in F1 Manager. It's just like the same looking chassis that we keep seeing over and over and over again. So for that reason, I have a middle of the pack, and yeah, it doesn't really provide too much for intimidation factor. As for the scary chassis, now these are the cars when they're behind you, they genuinely look terrifying. Not the top, but they're getting there. The Red Bull, we saw a leaked image of it, and that's kind of what I put, actually, funny enough, in the images. It's like, from what it looks like, it looks scary, but the actual chassis from last year too was an intimidating car with that undercut into it. The way that some of those lines go throughout the car is a beaut. I cannot lie, and it would be pretty intimidating to be behind me. Sure, I had the speed last year, but it also had the look. Now, Aston Martin, last year to me were kind of like gumpy. I don't know, they kind of copied Red Bull, but didn't look as agile and didn't have the lines that Red Bull did. This year though, oh, this car looks mean. It's a mean machine. It genuinely looks terrifying to have behind you. The way that the undercut in the side pods looks is insane. All the lines from the side look amazing onto the curve into the car. Like, the lines on this car are just awesome. And the front angle of this car, that nose is huge, but man, does it look awesome on the car. This car is just beautiful, genuinely. A scary, beautiful car. And you know, for pure intimidation, I had to do it. I had to put up the Ferrari, and you know the Mercedes is the top dog. So for the Ferrari, I feel like it's less than it was last year. Last year, I would have put this car at #1 for pure intimidation because it had that complete bathtub design, and it just looked so mean from the side. It's a little less. They upgraded the car in different types of ways, but they definitely downgraded in its intimidation factor. Is it still towards the top? Of course it is. It still has kind of the bathtub design. It's not as heavy as it was before. And the front looks also great, like with the side pods and everything. So it is number 2, but the Mercedes this year, while it does look a little bit like a pontoon boat from the top view, oh man, those lines, to me, if you guys remember the BMW F1 car back when BMW was in Formula 1, it had like all kinds of things on it. The lines were insane on it. That's what this Mercedes car reminds me of. It's not the prettiest per se looking chassis, but like the lines on it just reminds me of Formula 1 and like what goes into like the thinking of how a car should look to be as agile as possible. And it also like just looks purely mean with its like sideways side pods that almost look like the Senna side pods from McLaren, to the way that like some of those lines work from the top of the engine cover to the bottom of the side pod, the actual floor itself, the front wing, the way that the nose comes down to. It's just everything about this car that screams out pure intimidation, and I'm ready to come after you. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the chassis tier list? What is your guys' tier list? Which car do you think is genuinely the scariest on the track? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like and subscribe. It would mean the world, and